know, the focus in the world affairs has now been on the Middle East, and it's Iraq and the war in Iraq. It's Israel and the Palestinians. It's even Egypt. But the one country we seem to have forgotten all about is Iran. So joining me now to talk about what's going on with Iran, nuclear weapons, and potential outreach to Iran is Senator Joe Lieberman, former chairman of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, longtime member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, and probably one of the great national voices on foreign policy issues. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Katie.
Now, you've just come back from a meeting in Paris where you met with Iranian opposition. We've seen that for the last, well, we're now into the second decade of fighting in the Middle East in one aspect or another. Iraq, Syria, Israelis and Palestinians. But the one thing we've not talked about is another direction. I mean, will they internally reform? And you've just met with an Iranian opposition group.
Right.
Is there any prospect that Iran is going to be pulled into the web of, pro-American relations, or give up this notion of the great Satan and the little Satan?
Notwithstanding the smiling face of Rouhani, none of their policies have changed. In fact, they're more repressive to their own people than ever before. They haven't really changed anything about their policies on supporting terrorism or building up a nuclear weapons capacity. The fact is, you described the Middle East today that is very unstable, probably as unsettled as it's been in a long time. But in my opinion, the number one threat to American interests and our values in the region remains Iran. And it's a shame that we're not focused more on it. In fact, Iran is beneath some of the problems that we do focus on. Iran has supported Assad Iran continues to infiltrate Iraq and exercise undue influence on the government there. For the Middle East and for the United States is for the regime to be changed. And it can, and in my opinion, will happen in Iran. The question is when. Now, this group that we spoke to in France last Friday, holding their annual meeting, a remarkable group, came from, really, estimate it was 100,000 people at this meeting, came from all over Europe, came from the United States, all over the world. These are Iranians who were forced out of their country, and they want their country to change, and they have a lot of allies inside the country. So
now, who else is helping the Maliki government in Iraq? You've just said Iran
definitely,
Syria, Russia.
But our interests in Iraq are so different from Iran's that it would be foolish for us to consider anything like an alliance with Iran. For instance, one significant difference, it seems to me that Iran is committed to the Maliki government. We're committed to a coalition government in Iran that gives the Sunnis and Kurds the participation they deserve. And obviously the best way that will happen is with new leadership. We've now got the danger of an extremist Iranian regime wanting to spread out and an extreme...